Hello Stitcher friends, this is Sara from Flourishing Fibers, and today we are working on the beautiful little meadow frames. This is the complete stitching tutorial for this pattern, so whether you purchased the standard pattern pack or the new customizable font and template bundle, you are in the perfect place. I'll walk you through every stitch. Before we get started, just a couple of quick reminders. First, be sure to check your PDF guide for the thread color and thread count recommendations. But remember, this design is all about getting creative. Feel free to switch up the colors, and as I'll show you, you can even change to the stitches you use for the flowers. Second, let's talk about the tools. For the lettering, you must use the ultra-fine point of your awl. The holes are very small and close together, and any larger tool will rip the paper. The frames themselves will be using the other awl points as well. If you need the pattern, the font, or the 3-in-1 awl I'm using, I'll have all those linked in the description below. Okay, let's get stitching. First, I want to cover the flowers because you can stitch them in two different ways. Let's start with the center flower. I'll call this a tulip. The stem is done in stem stitch, and I'll cover that in more detail in just a minute, but the leaves and petals are all straight stitches. We will use straight stitches a lot in this pattern, and the goal is to make them look full and dimensional. Using 12 strands of thread helps a lot with volume, but the real secret is your tension. You want to stitch these very loosely. Here's my trick. Before you take the needle down, make sure the floss isn't twisted. Then, when I pull the stitch through, I use very light tension. If it looks too flat, I'll even take my needle and gently pull the stitch back up to give it a little bit more of a poof and dimension. And to finish off your daisy, we need a center. We're going to place a cute little French knot right in the middle. Come up through that center hole, wrap your needle around the needle twice. Then, while keeping a little tension on the thread with your other hand so it doesn't get loose, go back down into the same hole. Pull it through gently and you'll have the perfect little knot sitting right in the center. Now, the alternative stitch you can use is the detached chain stitch, also known as the lazy daisy. One tricky thing here is that you have to start in that big center hole and your thread just might pull right through. From stopping that from happening, I recommend securing your thread on the back of some of the nearby stitches or just using a tiny piece of tape. So you'll come up through the center hole and then go right back down that same hole, leaving the loop of the thread on top. Now you come up at the top hole of the petal, making sure your needle goes inside that loop that you left behind. Finally, go back down on the other side of the thread right at the same top hole. As you pull, it tacks down the loop and it creates this perfect little petal shape. You'll just repeat that step all the way around to create your flower. If you would like to add additional details, you could add some straight stitches to the petals. Alright, let's tackle the lettering. This part is very simple, but here are my tips for making it look super neat. As I mentioned, you must use the ultrafine alt point for the holes. For stitching, we're going to use 2 strands of thread. My biggest tip for clean letters is to stitch any crossbars first. For example, on the letter T, I'll stitch the horizontal bar first, and on the A or on the H, I'll stitch the middle bar first. This tiny steps makes the finished letters look so much more professional. Okay, now to get back to the stem stitch, as I promised. This is what we use for the main stem of the frame. It's a quick way to create a beautiful rope-like outline, but there's a little trick to making it look a little bit smoother on the curve. To create this stitch, you'll be making overlapping straight stitches. You'll connect odd number holes with odd number holes and the even numbered holes with the evens. So you'll stitch from hole 1 to 3, and then 2 to 4, and then 3 to 5, and so on. This overlapping is what's creating that stem style. Now for the curve, direction is everything. You always want to stitch into the curve. Here's my example. I'm stitching this first curve by making my stitches go into the curve, and you can see it looks nice and smooth. Now on the second example, I'm stitching away from the curve. See how it looks more jagged? The stitches are pulling away and you could see more of the holes. By stitching into the curve, the new stitches will help push the previous ones, covering the holes and creating a really fluid, smooth line. Understanding which direction to go takes a little bit of practice, but I hope with this example it helps you clear it up a little bit. those are all the stitches you need to stitch your little meadow frames and your custom lettering. I really hope you have fun with this and get a chance to explore all the different color combinations and stitching options. A final reminder that all the links to the patterns, the font templates, and the tools you saw me use today are in the description box below. If you enjoyed this tutorial, I'd be so grateful if you give it a like and subscribe for more paper embroidery tips. Until next time, keep on stitching. Bye.